Hi guys, this will be a short grammar lesson that goes along with lesson 24 in Journeys, and it's Dog of the Sea Waves. Our grammar lesson this week is all about complex sentences. So let's read. A complex sentence has two parts. The main part could stand alone as a simple sentence. The other part is called a dependent clause. It could not stand alone as a sentence because it does not express a complete thought. A dependent clause is joined to the main part with a connecting word called a subordinating conjunction. Some subordinating conjunctions are because, after, when, and if. Okay, so let's go back through what we just read and kind of see if it makes sense. So we know that a complex sentence has two parts, right? Because we just read that. So the main part could be its own sentence. So let's look at some examples of that down here where it says main part. So in our first example, the sentence says, "A volcano is dangerous." That's the main part of the sentence. Now that has everything that a sentence needs, right, guys? So that could be its sentence by itself. We could just say, "A volcano is dangerous." That is a complete thought, and so it would be a sentence. However, we could also add something to that sentence, and that's the part that we just read about that's called the dependent clause. Now, this part of the sentence joins to that main part that we just read, and it kind of gives us more information about that first main part. Now, if we were to just take this dependent clause on its own, that would not be a complete sentence. That would be a fragment. Remember, guys, we talked about fragments. It's just part of a thought. It's not the whole thought. So let's read the rest of that sentence and see if it would make sense on its own. So here are the dependent clauses right here. So let's look at that one in the first example. Because its lava is hot. So we can tell, right? That's not a complete sentence. It's a fragment. So we can join that dependent clause to the main part of the sentence using this word right here that's highlighted in green on the screen, and that is our subordinating conjunction. And like they told us, some examples of subordinating conjunctions are because, after, when, and if. And you might remember the Schoolhouse Rock song about conjunctions. Conjunction, junction, what's your function? Remember that song? So these are our conjunctions. Let's look at the second example. The lava becomes rock after it cools. Once again, the main part would make sense on its own. The lava becomes rock. Technically, that is a complete thought. But we can also add to it with our dependent clause, after it cools. So after would be our conjunction. Example 3. I saw a volcano when I visited Hawaii. I saw a volcano could be a complete sentence by itself. When I visited Hawaii definitely would not make sense on its own. But when we put them together using our conjunction, when, then it makes a complex sentence. I saw a volcano when I visited Hawaii. Okay, and then the last example. You should visit Hawaii if you can. So the first part, you should visit Hawaii, that's the main part, and it would make sense on its own. But we can also add a dependent clause and turn it into a complex sentence using the conjunction if. You should visit Hawaii if you can. Let's do the bottom part together. It says copy each sentence, then underline the main part of the sentence once, underline the dependent clause twice. So number 1 says, an island forms when a mountain pokes out of the sea. I know that we could just say, an island forms, right guys? So an island forms would be the main part of the sentence. But we can add the dependent clause when a mountain pokes out of the sea. So that would be the dependent clause. And then, of course, our conjunction would be the word when, because that is the word that is connecting our dependent clause to our main part of the sentence, forming a nice, lovely, complex sentence. An island forms when a mountain pokes out of the sea. Okay, let's try number 2. We flew to Hawaii because my grandma lives there. I bet you have already spotted that conjunction. We flew to Hawaii would make sense on its own. That's the main part of our sentence. And then the rest of the sentence is the dependent clause, because my grandma lives there. And of course, our conjunction is because. That's the word that is connecting the two parts of the sentence to form a complex sentence. Okay, and then for number 3 and 4, we have 2 simple sentences that we could connect using a subordinating conjunction. Number 3, we could just put them together. We will hike around the volcano. That's our first simple sentence. And then we have time. The conjunction we could use to connect them would be the word if. We could say, we will hike around the volcano if we have time. Number 4. The first simple sentence is, my grandma moved to Hawaii. The second one is, I was born. We can connect those 2 simple sentences with the conjunction after to form a complex sentence. My grandma moved to Hawaii after I was born. Okay, and then just real quick, guys, let's look over here in this box. This gives us a couple more examples of taking 2 simple sentences and combining them to form a complex sentence. And this one tells us that we could even start the sentence with the dependent clause and then just follow it with a comma. So let's take look at an example of that. So here are our 2 simple sentences. Lava flowed from the volcano and we stayed far away. So there's 2 ways we could actually put those together. We could say, while lava flowed from the volcano, we stayed far away. And notice the comma. While lava flowed from the volcano, comma, we stayed far away. So that sentence used the conjunction right away. Or we could just write it this way. We stayed far away while lava flowed from the volcano. Okay, so that is the way that we were looking at over here. And this first one is a different way that we can do it, using the conjunction first and then putting in a comma to complete or to connect the 2 sentences. I hope you enjoyed our grammar lesson for lesson 24, and I'll see you soon.